Hello and welcome. This is Martin with My IELTS Tutor. We've been talking about IELTS speaking, and we're going to continue our discussion on IELTS speaking, particularly on lexical resources. Now, what are lexical resources? Well, here's the big secret. It's vocabulary. That's right, vocabulary, the words, phrases that you use. Now, lexical resources are very important because it's one of the criteria that the examiners use to score you. And it makes up 25% of your overall band score. So let's take a closer look. And I think what we'll do is, since this video is about increasing your lexical resources from band 6 to band 8, we'll start with describing what band 6 lexical resources are. The criteria for that. So from the IELTS band score rubrics, we have basically 2 points that they consider for lexical resources. The first is the test taker has a wide enough vocabulary to discuss topics at length and make meaning clear inappropriacies. And I'll get to inappropriacies in a second. But basically it means using a word illogically. Okay, and then the second criteria is that this test taker is generally successful at paraphrasing. Now, what these points actually mean are, now if we take point 1, the person can speak at length using words in a clear and understandable way despite occasional illogical word choices, as I said. So if we look at the example here, giving gift is a very convenient way of showing affection. Convenient is not a logical choice because convenient, easy, or comfortable. But that's not what we want to really, it doesn't make sense. But if we say giving a gift is an excellent way of showing affection, then that makes sense. That makes sense. So that's what I mean by inappropriacy, illogical word choices. Now, point 2, paraphrasing is restating someone else's ideas into your own words, and that means using synonyms, and we'll look at that more closely. Now, let's look at 8 band descriptors for lexical resources. Okay. Now, from the IELTS band score rubrics, we have 3 points here. First of all, it's using a wide vocabulary resource, meaning a wide range of words and phrases that can be used readily without having to think about which word or phrase to use, and can use it flexibly, meaning in different contexts of the word, and to use them to convey precise meaning. So this means that the meaning of the word is clear, or the word or the phrase is clear. Also, the test taker has the ability to use less common, more difficult words and idioms. That's what this means by idiomatic vocabulary. The person can use this skillfully. However, there might be some inaccuracies involved. But the inaccuracies are not enough to take away from the meaning, so the meaning's still clear. And then, of course, being able to paraphrase effectively as needed. So let's take a closer look at these points. Now, point 1, you can use a larger number of words within different contexts, different situations, and the word is correct in each situation. So for example, we have, as the supervisor, I have the authority to delegate tasks. So here, authority means power or right. And the next one, he alerted the concerned authority by calling the police. Here, authority means official. And then as a professor of English, he is considered an authority on the subject. In this case, authority means expert. So here in these 3 sentences, authority means different things. So the test taker has to have that ability. Point 2, the test taker can use hard and difficult words along with some idioms correctly and accurately, but with occasional inaccuracies. So an example of this would be to say, the students in this classroom are all wearing different shoes. Now, the inaccuracy there was I used the word differ, where I should have said different. But it's very clear what I mean, that everyone's wearing different shoes, despite the fact that I said differ. So it's okay to make some mistakes like that, but you want to make as few as possible. And those are the type of mistakes you want to make if you make mistakes in vocabulary. But hopefully you won't make mistakes in vocabulary after this session. Finally, you can easily restate an idea in your own words. Again, that's paraphrasing. Now, let's look at these individually. Okay, so what should you, as a student, study to improve vocabulary? Well, there's 3 areas that you should focus on. These are collocations, idioms, and paraphrasing. Those are very important. These will get you up to level 8 and beyond. So now let's look at collocations. Collocations are word phrases that are centered on a particular word. For example, let's take vocabulary. Since we have this example, we have passive vocabulary, active vocabulary, limited vocabulary. We might have subject-wise vocabulary or to acquire vocabulary. And so those are all phrases that are focused on the word vocabulary. And the reason why you want to learn collocations is because you can learn the words quicker. You also learn the different contexts of the words as well. And then collocations make your speech sound more natural. You'll sound more like a native speaker. And native speakers use collocations all the time. Now, how can you learn collocations? Well, there's several things you can do. First of all, be aware and learn to recognize them when you're reading and listening. You can pick up a lot when you read. And then you want to treat and learn them as if they are a single word rather than 2 or more words put together. So instead of looking at each word individually, you're looking at the phrase individually. So you can see this from our example here. So instead of trying to understand the word strongly and then condemn and trying to put together, try to just understand what strongly condemn means. Now, when you learn a new word, write other words that will co-locate with it. So let's take remember, for example. So we have distinctly remember, vaguely remember, vividly remember, carefully remember. And then, as I said before, read as much as possible. It's a great way to pick up new collocations. And then practice them as you learn them. The more you practice them, the easier it's going to be to pick them up. And then you make sure you use them as much as possible. And then learn collocations in groups, such as according to topic or by a particular word. So when you learn a new word, make sure you learn the collocations that go with that word. And then there are many websites and dictionaries, even mobile apps that are free, which you can use to learn collocations. Now, idioms are interesting because these are phrases that do not mean what the words state. So, for instance, piece of cake does not mean a single piece of cake. It actually means something that's easy. A dime a dozen means something very common, rather than a single dime, which is a coin of U.S. currency. So you won't find, we're not talking about a dozen dimes here. We're talking about something that's very common. Then we have other idioms too, as you can see, but there's a lot more that you should know and learn. Now, how to learn these is, again, reading is a great way to pick these up, especially if you read fiction. You'll find a lot of idioms in fiction. And then while reading them, try to understand the context for which they are used. Then watching films and television shows. That's also a great way of learning idioms. And again, try to learn the context in which they are used so you can understand them. And then there are idiom dictionaries online. There's also websites. There might be some mobile apps. But use those. Those should be free, and they'll be very helpful. And then again, practice them regularly. Use them regularly. As often as you can, the more you practice with them, the quicker you're going to pick them up. All right. Now let's talk about paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is, again, restating someone else's ideas in your own words. So if we look at this example, of the more than 1,000 deaths each year, 3/4 are caused by head injuries. A good paraphrase would be annually, which means each year, 75%, that's 3/4, of all deaths involving bicycles are the result of head trauma. So head trauma instead of head injuries. So even though some words are repeated, it's primarily synonyms here. And that's the key point here for paraphrasing. You want to be able to learn and use synonyms. That's very important. So how to learn how to paraphrase? First of all, keep a thesaurus or use a thesaurus app or website. One such website is thesaurus.com. That's where you can learn synonyms. Keep a vocabulary notebook and write synonyms and antonyms, words that are opposite in meaning for new words that you learn. And then practice by taking a sentence from an article, website, or somewhere you've read, like a book or something, and rewrite it or speak it in your own words. You want to make sure that first you do not change the meaning of the sentence. And then you don't want to leave out important information. There's some things you can leave out, but you want to get the gist of the sentence. Okay? And then another thing you can do is practice sentence simplification exercises. There are many websites free that offer these types of exercises. And all you have to do is search for sentence simplification exercises. And that will teach you how to paraphrase as well. Now, let's review. Now, the differences between Band 6 and Band 8 lexical resources. Band 8 has a wider range of vocabulary, includes less common and difficult words. A test taker can also use great words with greater accuracy and can effectively use collocations and idioms as well as paraphrase with accuracy. And so when improving on vocabulary, you should focus on include less common and difficult words as well as collocations and idioms, and then improving your ability to paraphrase. And this means studying synonyms and antonyms. And that's it for today's lesson. I want to thank you for joining me. It's been such a pleasure having you.